morning, folks. I'm here with AJ and Trey, and we're gonna do an install on your Pro Angler 360
14
with the we got the Ultralight 403, and you want to lock the steering and steer with the rudder. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So the old solution, the solution that comes with the hardware. I'm not even gonna pick it up because we're not gonna touch that. That's a cotter pin. The idea is that you drop that in that little hole when you have it on top of the mount with the pole in there, and it drops into this little corresponding little hole, and it locks the steering, right? Actually, it's gonna be like that, but whatever. I didn't like that option. I never did when we developed the product, and I took me just going to the hardware store with the steering triangle and the pivot drum to figure out that this bolt right here, it is well, there are the numbers, 832 by 2. It drops in there really nicely and gives you enough threads that when you turn that Phillips head, it'll actually grab into that. So we'll get into that a little bit later. I want to just do a quick overview of all the parts and a couple other innovative Sportsman products, a couple accessories that we got. But basically the overview, here's the motor pylon, there's the battery. Yeah, actually comes with the USB to charge your cell phone. We got AJ's cell phone there. When you plug it in, you can actually charge it while you're using the motor. And Trey pointed out to me what's important.
You have to have the throttle hooked up and power it up for the phone to be able to charge.
Got it. Okay. So really useful thing that just comes with it. Here's the A mount with the black pivot drum in there. We got, this is the quick release hardware that goes in the steering triangle, which we're going to lock. This is the cord we use for the motor lift. This is the motor lift bar, which is going to go in like that. What else do we got here? That's the pull cord. It's a ring clamp. We may or may not use that a little bit later. This is our cleat for the motor lift. This is the little line guide for the reverse lock. The cord is all one length, so we'll cut this really good durable cord that this stuff is great. It's so much more durable than like parachute cord. A couple different options for mounting. We're actually going to mount this to the option that we're going to do is using the Hobie power pole adapter plate. We'll put that on the back of your boat. But if you wanted to, and we may look at it later, do you want to talk about your new mount?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we've created a new mount. If you've seen our products before, we started with the rugged inline mount, and this is actually the third generation of the rugged inline mount. With the introduction of the A mount uses a pivot drum, and this black pivot drum will actually fit inside of here. So the reason why we developed it this way is so we could use this standard Torqeedo hardware and actually take advantage of the reverse lock and all of the good features that the A mount has, and you can still use your power pole. So the power pole mounts here, your pole goes down through here. We left a big enough slot so that if you have to release your power pole, if it gets stuck in rock or in the mud, that it can still pivot a little bit to work that loose. The pivot drum goes in here, the bar for your reverse lock, and if you look at this pin, we've actually milled this pin so that it will work with both the 403 and the 1103 motors, because both motors use a different size pin. The 1103 is more powerful, has a larger pin. So we developed this mount for it's more economical, it's cheaper, and it's easier to install, and it uses all the same features as the 403A mount.
Nice. We're also going to be using your rock guard with the grass blaster, which we're here at Gunnersville, and it is grassy. That is going to come in really handy for you, AJ. So you're going to have have that on your motor to protect the prop and chop up the grass. It does a nice job there.
Yeah, this is one of those things that as I started asking questions to people about this whole setup, this was a must-have accessory for your Torqeedo motor when you're in rocky or grassy conditions, and just in general to protect the prop, which is what makes it all go.
Yep. So throttle mount, we got a couple different options here. I usually do the Attack Torqeedo throttle mount, but you're saying you don't have any track real close to where the seat is. You kind of have to reach forward.
Yeah.
So you had another couple ideas.
My track is up further on the boat, and the biggest thing for this whole process for me is just learning. What I think I'm finding talking to so many different people is everybody's got a different solution for these parts and how they want to mount it for their boat. So that's the big process of this whole thing, is learning, figuring out what works best for me on my boat and how I like to use it. And luckily we have a industry where there's so many great accessories that we can utilize, different ones to fit all of our individual needs.
So we've discussed a couple of them. Why don't you go through the different options for mounting the throttle?
So I'm gonna start by using a 1-inch ram ball with the H-rail mount. I love the way the H-rail mount secures around our H-rail bar, and it gives me the opportunity to slide it forward or back as needed to find that right spot. I'm going to use a regular ram extender arm, and then I'm going to come and use an X grip to hold the throttle housing right here. So that's going to be what we start with first. Now I might decide that I'm use the larger X grip. It's going to have a little bit larger spring in it and cover more surface area there as it locks into place. And I also might try this ram ball that could mount on different areas other than the H bar. So if I want to utilize my seat or something like that.
I've seen this used. It's right. It just locks right on there. I won't open it up, but it goes, locks right on there. So, you know, play around with them. You got a couple different options. So, all right. So, now we got the cleat, the line guide, couple other parts we'll get into. Everything's here that you need, and I guess we'll start by having you guys take the black pivot drum off, get this you know, just get the mounting bracket put on there, and then you can put this on the back of your boat. Make sense?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
So when you're ready to install the motor, the first thing, if you have a rock guard, we need to put the rock guard on first. So what I do is I actually hold the motor between my legs, and then you have to run the cord up through the bottom first. And then you pull the cord through, just slide it down over the shaft. And there's 2 1/4-inch screws that will hold this in place. They're basically 2 set screws. It goes all the way down. Finger tighten them. It's a 3/16 Allen wrench that tightens them down. So you just want to hold it, make sure that it's straight. What you do is you tighten one just a little bit, and then the other one, if you try and tighten one down too much all the way at first, it'll actually cause it to walk a little bit and turn, and it won't be straight anymore. But you don't need to over tighten these. Go 1/4 to a 1/2 a turn after you make contact with the pylon, and then your rock guard's on, it's straight. Check the distance, the clearance between the prop and the blade. You don't need much. Actually, the closer it is, the better it is at keeping grass off. So once you have that, the good thing about the rock guard, it kind of acts like a kickstand too. It'll hold itself kind of. So we need to put the ring clamp on. And with the ring clamp, we're going to use, it's basically a bicycle seat cam lock is the style of this. And then you run the clamp down on the shaft. And what this clamp's going to do is it's going to hold the motor from when you raise the motor, it stops the motor from sliding up through your pivot drum. So run the bolt through. Oh, turn it around. There you go. Then you just tighten that nut down with the cam lock open. For now, we're going to leave that open. We don't need to lock that down just yet. The next part is your pivot drum. And the pivot drum is what actually fits into the mount and holds the motor. These are your reverse lock prongs here. So they go to the bottom. So you run your cord up through the bottom. You pull that through. Just slide it down on there. Your steering triangle is two parts. You've got the triangle and you have your raise bar. So we'll go ahead and put the triangle on first. You don't want to pry the triangle open. You actually want to slide it down over just like everything else. You have this gap here, and we have a tendency of, you know, just wanting to take the shortcut route and prying it over the cord. Just go the extra step and run it down through your cord. That way we don't break it. So the hardware for your steering triangle, you have two flat washers, the small bolt, that is a 4mm Allen head, and then you have a nut which is an 8mm wrench. So you take your raise bar, and the hook actually faces, it goes over the shaft. So then you line all this up, run your bolt through, and we're just going to put this to, actually I forgot to put my flat washer on, but we're just going to put this through and put it on loosely for now, because we have to get it all lined up and make sure everything's straight. Alright, so everything's put together. Now, before you tighten it down, you want to figure out the height. You want to make sure that your prop is going to be low enough in the water. If your kayak has a mud line on it, that's an easy way to tell, you know, how low the prop needs to be into the water. And then we figure that out and we set it, and then a lot of times it's just you set it and you go out and test it, and you may have to make adjustments. There is a measurement. I'm not sure what the exact measurement is that is recommended for this prop to be into the water, but you know, that there is a, you definitely want it to be down below that water line. So it's set all the way down, and then this cam lock, like I said, these are just like a bicycle seat lock. They don't need to be extremely tight, but you will feel them where they start to grab, and then it won't allow this to slide up out of here. So with the mud line on this boat, the boat's kind of sitting on an angle. I'm just eyeballing it. We're looking like the water line is about here, and that's a good place to start. So what I do is I can put my leg in here to just hold the motor into place, and then I'll take my ratchet, and there's a 4mm Allen wrench, and then we can tighten this bolt down. If you get it snug but not tighten it all the way, it'll hold the motor on its own, and then you can adjust it so that the motor is straight with the steering triangle. And what I do is I look straight down the back of the raise bar, actually to my grass cutter blade down there, and it kind of gives me an idea of where center is. So then after you do that, you can tighten it down the rest of the way. So to lock the steering straight, we've got an 832 by 2-inch bolt, and this bolt fits in the hole in the steering triangle, and it lines up with the hole in the pivot drum. So what we do is you can get it started, and then some of these tend to be a little bit different. So the pivot drum may have a little bit of variance in it, so the bolt will screw in and it'll grab a hold, but it won't be like, you can't crank it down, it won't be extremely tight. So what we've got here is a tube of silicone, and we'll take and raise this up, and we'll put a little silicone on the bolt. Line it back up, put it down, and then we'll run the bolt in. So the next step is the key part. The ring clamp that we put on earlier, it's loose on the shaft now. You make sure that the nut is started and it's ready to tighten down. And you push this ring clamp all the way to the bottom of the pivot drum. And then you tighten this clamp. And what the clamp does is it holds the shaft down so it will not allow this to kick up out. Therefore, the bolt will stay in the hole and it won't pivot either way. So it keeps it locked straight. And this bolt is tight enough in here that it won't kick out when the motor kicks up. It won't fall out like the cotter pin will. It has just enough bite, and the silicone will hold it in there. And the silicone makes it so that it's not a permanent fixture like using epoxy or something like that. You can take it out. You can use the stow function still. And you know, to use the stow function, you would just undo the ring clamp and then take your bolt out and pivot it up, and then you can use your stow function. So this is the solution right now for fixing the steering and locking it straight. So like on this Hobie Pro Angler 14, you can use your Mirage drive to steer with the 360 drive. Actually, Jody Queen's actually said you can use the 360 drive to steer the boat, or you can just use the rudder. So it gets you from point A to point B, and then you use that Mirage drive to do, you know, all the fishing and all the maneuvering you need when you're fishing.
All right, guys, we're going to get the data cable onto the remote throttle, but before we do that, little WD-40 on all of our connections here. We're gonna spray that in there. That's just gonna improve the overall longevity of this connection and kind of keep the things out that you don't want in there, and make sure that you got the connection that's gonna keep this thing going. So a little spray in there, a little spray there, a little spray there. WD-40 can make sure you don't have problems down the road. It's a great solution for a lot of things. So I'm gonna put that cable right under those lips right there. Just slide that down and just set that right down onto that, and then you can push it forward and back. There, just sat in, and your fingers are able to just go ahead and get that threaded on, and that's gonna sit in there really good. All right, for starters, I'm gonna start with the H-Rail 1-inch ball mount from Ram and Hobie. Probably just start it in this area right here. It's gonna give me a good secure lock. You just gotta loosen that up a little bit, pop that in, and that ball's not going anywhere. I'm gonna put that on there, and here, let's go ahead and get this installed. So all right, that Ram X grip. And that seems like a good enough place to start to see where I really want this throttle as it pertains to the way the rest of my boat is set up. And I will say, you notice I've got a lot of stuff going on my left side of the kayak here. I like to kind of overload one side and keep one side completely free. So the reason I do that, there's actually two really important reasons. One is I like to have an area of the kayak where I can make sure I'm netting my fish, landing my fish, and I don't have to worry about my net getting caught up in anything. But more importantly, if you're ever upside down in a boat or need to flip or get back in, having nothing on one side is really important for you to allow yourself a place to get in and pull yourself in safely as well. So twofold there, one for safety, one for making sure those fish get in the boat. Both are equally important on the water, and that's why I got all of my stuff here on the left side.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and connect the motor to the battery. This is something I wanted to really point out, that there is a technique, there is a right way to connect this. The most common problem, the most common error code that you have with the Torqeedo Ultralight is E30, which means you have a bad electrical connection of this this plug here. It's IP67 rated waterproof terminal. It's got a little O-ring gasket in there and all these little gold pins that seat right here in the battery. Let's take a look real quick. I'll show you the technique, how I make sure I have this seated properly. You have the 4 pins, and they correspond to the little smiley face in there. So that goes in, and I kind of twist that side to side until it feels like it seats. I also go kind of north, south, east, and west, just to make sure as I push that in. And what you don't want to do is if you start going and you really have to force it, it's cross threading. So really what you want to do is you push in and you spin that, and if you can move this with one finger, you're good. If you have to grasp it and really wrench on it, you're basically cross-threading it, and you're starting little grooves in those plastic threads that will always perpetuate, and you'll always have trouble getting a good connection. So do the one finger test when connecting, and then you should be good to go. Then you come up here and turn that on, and we're good to go. All right, so we got the motor lift cord going. That's a nice, easy lift. What we ended up doing, AJ had some parts, some different Hobie mounts for the H-rail. I think that's a universal fish finder mount. We put the cleat that comes with it on that particular mount. He wanted it just to the side here. Didn't want it all the way up at the front here, kind of a little bit out of the reach. So this is certainly accessible. So I'm just tying a little knot to put that little knob on there. And then as we need, you know, if AJ, if you wanted to make this shorter, you can, but this is a good starting point of lifting that, and you're good to go.
All right, so we just hooked up the reverse lock. We ran through the same eyes. There's an eye on the side right here, and then there, through the mount, and then the clip there. And we left enough up here so that it'll hang a little bit. It's easy to grab a hold of. You're not trying to reach back in here, just to hold it in reverse and keep you away from those embankments.
As I add more stuff to the boat, you know, there's things can happen. So you want to always have a backup bag of parts and pieces, tools on your boat, so you can fix something if the unforeseen mistake happens. You know, I've got a spare prop, I've got this extra skeg, I've got an extra magnet, and then stuck to that magnet is an extra shear pin in there. Now I'm gonna find more things that I might need to take care of any issues on and off the water, but this is a great starter pack for anybody running a Torqeedo or another motor. Make sure you have the parts and pieces that you need to take care of your issues on and off the water.
Trey, you sell one of those, right?
Yeah, we make a Torqeedo 403 repair kit, and it has all that stuff in it. Ours actually has a couple of shear pins with the prop and the skeg, and it'll, you know, send it to you, and you'll have everything that you need to take care of any problem you may have out on the water.
Cool. All right, let's say hi to Jay.
Hey.
What's up, Jay?
How's it going?
We're gonna get this on the water and see how you like it.
All right, guys, you just saw the full install. The best thing to do after an install is to test your equipment. So we're gonna launch this Hobie Pro Angler 14 360 with a Torqeedo 403 right out here on Lake Gunnersville, and check it out.
What do you think, AJ?
It's pretty sweet. Looking forward to getting used to this thing and running all over these lakes.
All right, I'm gonna give this a try. It's actually my first time in a 360. Enjoyed using the pedal drive and just seeing how it glides left and right. It's pretty cool. But what I'm testing here is how does it function as a way to steer. So we got the little arrows here. I'm gonna mash the throttle. We'll go ahead and give it full speed. And I think this one's the rudder. And we're steering a little bit. It's honestly a little weak, but we are turning to the left. Now I'm going to turn back to the right. We're turning a little bit. If you're making a long run, I think this is functional, but we're going to get a little bit crisper steering, not using the rudder to steer, but actually using the drive. So you can see that arrow. Whoa, yeah, it's turning. See how that weight coming off the right, and I am in fact turning pretty good. It's not as crisp as if it were foot control steering, but let's turn the other way. It's tough, it's stiff, but I am turning at full speed, and we're going back the other way. So I think for long runs, if you're using the Torqeedo to move the Pro Angler 360 to make your long run, you're basically using it as an outboard to get distance behind you and go over there. I think it's perfect. I think once you're on location and you're fishing in that area, motor comes up. Pull that sucker up, stop it, pull it up, get it up out of the water, and enjoy using this. Very cool. I like it. Incidentally, my full speed, using both together, I think I just got 5.6. I'm gonna drop it back down. Full speed, mashing it. Let's go straight. Nice launch. Nice lift up. Let's see what I get. 5.8, 5.9. I'm doing faster than I thought. 5.8 miles per hour. I don't know how long I'd maintain this, but that's what it is with the Ultralight 403 AC on a Hobie Pro Angler 14 360, 5.8 miles per hour. Human power assisted. I like it.
Think about how you